Hello and welcome to the You're an Asset podcast. I'm your host, Casey the Dollar. And on this podcast, we find out who is an asset in the financial industry and who is just an ass. Welcome back, everybody. I have a very special guest joining us today, and we have a very special topic that we're going to talk about. A little throwback to episodes we've done in the past. We're going to be bringing up receipts from episodes we've done in the past. And if you're in the insurance social media world, whether it's on Instagram, whether it's on TikTok, there has been an influx of agents on social media claiming that Index Universal Life Insurance is a scam, that you should stay away from it. And we're going to talk about where those agents work, what they're all about, what they really do behind closed doors. And I have two of my favorite people with me to talk about it, and that is none other than Miss McCall Marshall and Ryan Stockbridge.
Hi.
Who wants to tell us? Who wants to tell everybody who this group of people that we're going to be talking about today is?
Well, I'm sure if you've scrolled through your favorite social media platform, you've stumbled across some sort of live feed with a person with big text behind them that says IULs are a scam, don't buy IULs, whole life included, scam, 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 buy term, invest the difference. And this epidemic of people is due to the recruitment strategy of none other than Primerica.
Yep.
Insert drum roll.
Yeah.
I've been collecting screenshots of all of the people on TikTok Live that are doing this. Some of them are just very blatantly like IULs suck. And the other ones are so obvious with their recruiting tactics. It just says, join our team. We're expanding. I'm recruiting. Recruiting is fun. Adam, McCall's rolling her eyes. That's going to happen a lot.
Sorry. Because it's on everyone's feed at this point. And I'm having phone calls with clients. They're like, I'm seeing all of this, IUL scam stuff. And there's monsters in the background. And I'm like, if you only knew. It's frustrating because it's founded on lack of education and misinformation and tiny nuggets of truth that they then use and twist, and it's awful.
And you can give them credit, 6 months ago to a year ago, we started talking about how there was so many IUL agents online all of a sudden. And our whole MO has been agents need to be more transparent. They need to be educating. They're not doing that. Life insurance agents suck. Here's the truth. And now, because of that, Primerica has seen a perfect opportunity to come in and be like, all of their products are bad. None of them are telling the truth. Only we have the truth. Mm-hmm. And if we go out in masses to social media platforms, we can sway everyone into believing what we believe instead. And they're claiming that it's education. And now it's like, we have to combat these guys who just claim that no one is doing the right thing in the insurance industry on the cash value life insurance side whatsoever is their big claim. So,
and the reason why is they're like, well, no one wants to send us an illustration. No one wants to get on a live with us and show us the unicorn illustration that shows, a properly structured IUL. And that's another thing they hate is when people say properly structured because they've only seen bad policies. You would think that these people would understand that if you're in sort of a disagreement with somebody and you're commanding them, well, show it to me. One, it's like, I'm sort of combative. I'm not going to give you what you want because you're disagreeing with me. And two, anything I give you, there's a potential for you to just look at it in whatever lens that you want to see it through. You're going to look through and say, oh, look, the loans cost you 4.5%. Why would you loan yourself your own money? And they just keep the same narrative. They wouldn't look at it and
they're not going to see the good at all because they refuse to. Mm-hmm. And even if you show them a properly structured policy, we've all posted about a 17-year-old IUL that's seen a better average return than what was illustrated at the time of the purchase. But they would say, but it's only an average of 6%. Okay, but it's an average of 6%, which was higher than what was illustrated at the time of the purchase. They have hundreds of thousands of death benefit coverage. They have access to all of their money. And when they access it, they don't have to pay taxes. And they don't see value in any of those things because you can get a term policy that's so much less expensive and you wouldn't have to loan out the money. Like they don't care what you show them. They're going to say that it's not as valuable as what they have, which is investing in the stock market. We actually did some undercover sleuthing with Primerica recently. McCall pretended to be a client looking for life insurance and scheduled an appointment with a Primerica agent so that we know exactly what they're showing people. We're not just basing this off of what we think they do or what we think they say. And the whole thing is recorded. We have the slides, we have the quotes. We came with the receipts. So I feel like we should start off with this idea that there is 140,000 Primerica agents in the United States, something around those numbers. And Primerica is this massive company that's publicly traded on the New York Stock Exchange, meaning they have investors funding their company and the clients who have policies, because Primerica has their own life insurance policy specific to the company. And those policy holders do not own Primerica. Investors own Primerica. And this is a big deal because when you have a life insurance policy, it's more important with a cash value life insurance policy, but you want to work with a mutual company most of the time because mutual companies mean that the policyholder owns the carrier, right? The company that's offering the policy. So you have this sense of, in a way, like power with the company that you work with, that they need you, right? Mm-hmm. Primerica doesn't need anybody. Primerica doesn't need their policy holders. They need their investors. They want to have more and more assets to do more and more marketing, which is a huge part of it, right? And one of Primerica's things that they do with new agents is you pay $99 a month to work with Primerica. And I've actually seen a guy talk about this on TikTok, that it's a $99 monthly fee. And there is a startup fee as well, but it's because they pay for all of your licenses, right? But like, where is all this money coming from? It costs hundreds of dollars to get licensed in life insurance only, but they're also offering securities. So if they're able to do that, it's because they have money to be able to do that and offer that to everyone.
It's a pyramid scheme. I mean, you give me $100 and we'll make sure you're set up so that you can go and have somebody else pay $100 so you get a little snippet of that, and on it goes. They don't really care about your product training or product knowledge or anything else that's going on. Here's our suite of Primerica products and what we have to offer. And if you want to sell them too for just a small fee, a nominal fee of $99 a month, you can too.
Yeah, and I can say, like, after being in an actual meeting, I haven't even said like, "Hi, how are you?" And he's telling me about Primerica and why I should join their team. It took all of a minute. I'm like, "I want life insurance. You should join our team." That's not what I asked.
It was literally at 4.5 minutes when he mentioned recruiting and how they are the biggest company to help the middle class and how it's such a great side business if you want to join.
We haven't even talked numbers. He hasn't shown me anything. I haven't seen a policy. I don't know what I'm getting myself into, and he's selling me on joining the team. It's so icky. And then this is, again, like what Ryan said, like, there's no product knowledge. There's no training. It's just recruit, and then you can build a team. Recruit, and then you can build a team. And you're going to make money off of the desperate people underneath you.
All they're really telling people is that we get a term policy for as little as $50 a month. You can start investing, and you're set. It's that easy. You're set. Yeah. Term policy for 30 years. You don't need
anything else.
No. And you know what was interesting in the audio is that, like, in the meeting that you had, is that he specifically said, we are the only company that tells people you don't need life insurance forever. He mentioned it multiple times.
Mm-hmm. Their whole thing is that your need for life insurance is going to decrease as you get older because your mortgage is paid off and your kids are out of the house and you have less liabilities to have to cover with life insurance. He quoted you for 35 years, McCall, so that puts you at, we don't have to say the age, but
70. Put me at 70.
And that's getting around where you're going to need it the most.
I mean, obviously, people are working till they're 70, they're retiring later, whatnot. But people don't want to do that. Like, why are we pushing this old school narrative still of like, oh, you know, keep funding your investments and don't touch your money until you're 70? No
Well, yeah.
one wants to do that anymore.
And in one of the slides he showed me, you know, it's creating this picture of like, in the early years, you're probably not going to have any money. In the later years, you're going to have money. And I'm like, how many clients have I talked to? They're like, hey, I'm going to retire in 5 years. I have nothing. Can you help me? And I'm going, boo, you needed to start this like 20 years ago at that point. You know, like this idea that all of your investments are going to pan out, that everything's going to work, especially if your target is middle class, right? Like if this is who you're targeting, that you're going to have money when, you know, so that you don't need life insurance, your family's going to be fine.
Well, Primerica pushes this idea that you get a term policy as soon as you turn 18. They want younger people. Like the younger, the better. Lock them at 18 years old and tell them they never have to worry about life insurance again. And so now they're thinking for probably the next 10 years, well, I was told I didn't need any more life insurance. I'm good.
Yeah, and their most is 35 years, a 35-year term, so that takes them to 53.
Yeah.
And supposedly they're going to have all of their needs met by 53.
What I thought was interesting, too, is like he never told you like what else you should put your money into. He just like basically you told him a $250 a month amount that you could comfortably contribute or put away. And he threw a term policy with $500,000 at you and said, and we'll take the rest of the money and we'll put it somewhere.
Yeah.
Put it where?
That was, yeah, I don't know. In their accounts, in Primerica's accounts is where my money would go. What does that even mean? It just was not a lot of information. I mean, it was a lot of information, just mostly recruiting.
Well, yeah. And you guys will love this. Like, he asked her, you know, what kind of research you've been doing? Like, what have you seen online, whatever. Well, there's something called a UIL that I've been seeing. And he's like, oh, yeah. We don't do that. And what we do is so much better. And his key points about why an IUL is not as good as what they're offering is that you have to take a loan, right? And loans are bad. And the problem with an IUL is that it's only one account. And when you bundle things, it's complicated. Which I just couldn't believe the answers that came out of this guy's mouth. Like, when you try to have something do more than one thing, it's too complicated for the middle class. Don't do that. And loans are bad, which is a lie that has been told to the middle class our entire lives, that debt is bad. When if you ask anybody who's in upper middle class or high class, they will tell you that they function on debt. Because debt is good. Debt is how you win the money game. But as far as middle class goes, you stay as far away from debt as possible because it is the worst thing that you could possibly do.
Yeah, and again, I mean, I understand, like, credit card debt, yeah, bad. Like, there is such thing as a good debt and bad debt, absolutely. And I think anyone can agree with that. But, like, one, it was really hard to not just rebuttal everything he was saying, but I also, like, felt really bad for him in the sense that he's like, loans are bad. You don't want to take out loans, and because you're going to pay an interest on this. And I'm like, but yeah, there's layers to it. And again, this is where that misinformation and lack of education really comes into play. Is like, there's an interest attached to it. I know in like a bank interest, that's scary. IUL interest, the higher the interest rate, which they're not even really that high, especially compared to banks, but the higher the loan interest rate, the more money you can put back into your policy. All of this, like, just generalized information and misinformation is stealing this opportunity from people who could actually really benefit from it.
They're so steadfast in the information that they've been told. They won't entertain any other opposition to it. You know, I can't tell you how many lives I've scrolled by where they're like, oh my God, like, and you have to take a loan from your money. Why, with an interest rate? Why would you do that? And the interest goes to the insurance carrier. I've been like, that's wrong. And they're like, no, it's not. And then that's it. What are you going to say?
I'll give them this one point, though, that there is a lot of companies that don't give the interest back to the client. There are 100%, which is where the company that you work with and where you purchase your policy from is very important, right? And we've always stood by that. We don't just, there are companies we won't sell. So sure, Like people are just hearing IUL, cash value life insurance. I can get the interest payments back to myself or back in my account. And then they get some trash policy, that doesn't do that and is not an elite policy in the industry. And they're thinking, wow, well, you guys were right. Right. Because
Yep.
a lot of these Primerica agents are getting on the phone with the carrier and the client. And I've heard the person on the other end say, oh, like the interest payments go back to us. And it's a company that we don't even contract it with or wouldn't even touch. Right.
Yeah.
So they have truth to what they're saying, but they generalize it so much and they're not willing to research or understand that there are companies that really do offer that. And to just have the like small bit of decency to say, if you're going to get one of these policies, make sure it's with a company that does this and like do your research. Like that is all I wish that they would say is just like, there are good companies, do your research because they don't all work the same, which is what we've been saying.
Literally what we've been saying. And that goes back to what I said at the beginning too, is like they're taking things that are in fact true, but then they're twisting it because there's this whole other world over here that they're just not even willing to acknowledge.
They're like piranhas about the information too. They're just like so angry and bitter. It's just such a strange atmosphere, their lives, where they're just bashing
Do you
them.
think that like they finally found something that they've been able to make some money doing, and they've been brainwashed to think that this is the only way? And they probably got screwed over in some other financial situation before. They feel like Primerica is just like shining this new light on the world. And so they're mad because, whoever in their family got screwed over or they got screwed over and they don't want it to happen to someone else. And they've been fed this certain narrative. Like part of me, like, because I was mad for a while and then I just started feeling more bad for some of these people because they've like just realized like the basics of the financial industry. Right. And they think that it ends there. It ends at buy a term policy and invest the rest of your money. And like there's nowhere else to go. They're just like, get a term policy, put $100 into your Roth IRA, you're fine. Like it's very basic 101 and they don't want to go any further.
If they tell you to go further, then they're taking money away from Primerica. Like they want to keep it all right here.
It's kind of like a little cult that believes what they believe, and then they take the information that they believe and then they just create a whole narrative around that. One live I was on the other day, the guy was like, there's only term insurance, there's only such thing as term insurance, whole life, IUL, they call it permanent insurance, but what it really is decreasing term. You're overfunding the policy and the liability to the carrier is less. Like David McKnight said, how essentially like the gap between how much is in the policy and how much death benefit there is can decrease, which is actually not a bad thing later on in life because you're lowering your costs of insurance.
You're self-insuring yourself.
Exactly.
Right.
And they're like, well, why would you do that?
Like the ways that they've been told that it's bad is the ways that people have explained to us. Like this is why it's so good. You don't want the insurance company to have all the risk. And what we're saying is give them so much money that all of the money becomes your money and you're the one that benefits the most. And the insurance carrier is just like, we have like this much risk. We're going to drop the cost of insurance. We don't need your money anymore. Like we did for a little while to learn that we could trust you, that you really were going to take your retirement and your long-term, insurance planning into your own hands. And now we do. So have at it.
I want to say too, it's not that term is bad. Like, and I want to make sure that it's clear. Like, term in and of itself isn't bad. I mean, I have a term policy. I think Casey,
I have a term policy.
I was like, so it's not like we're like anti-term. We believe term has its place. The problem specifically with Primerica terms is they're overpriced. Like we can get you a term that's cheaper, that has more features, that has more benefits.
It's not even the worst part.
It's not even the worst part. It's like
the worst part is that their product is not even competitive. If their product was the cheapest term policy on the market and had all of the living benefits associated with it, I don't know that we would be able to say much. Like, honestly, like if they were like, our policy has a critical, chronic, and terminal illness rider plus a waiver of premium rider, and it's half the price of everything else on the market, we think you should get one of those and invest the rest of your money. Been like, well, you don't know much about cash value life insurance. But I don't see a flaw here in your plan for middle class America.
It's a strategy.
Yeah, it's a strategy. Perfect. But when you take all the crap and then you say, well, our policy that only includes a terminal illness rider, so you have to be on your deathbed and have 2 years to live or less, and it includes a waiver of premium rider, which means that you're disabled and cannot work and they'll pay your premiums for the time being. It only has those two things: no critical illness, no chronic illness. And $500,000 for a 35-year-old healthy female is $97 a month, which includes a child's term rider for 20 grand. So it's a total of 520,000 for $97 a month, with 2 out of 4 potential living benefits and only 20 grand for a child. Compared to what we offer in a term policy, 500,000 coverage, $20,000 term rider, critical chronic terminal illness rider for $48 a month. You're joking. It's less than half. Like what we have is less than half of what they're
like. We could sit here and talk about the cash value comparison all day long, but when it gets down to it, the product they are offering isn't even good. It's not even competitive.
So they also gave you the option for 600,000. Okay. Which, okay, the one thing they have is that it lasts 5 years longer.
Great.
So 600 grand with, again, a $20,000 child's rider for 35 years, $113.26 a month, compared to 600 grand, $20,000 child's term rider, 30 years, $55.35.
So if you want to buy term and invest the difference, you're better off buying a term through us and do whatever you want with the extra money. Yeah, if you don't want permanent policy.
I'll gladly tell someone, you know what? I think it'd be better for you to get a 30-year term policy and put $100 into a Roth IRA. And they're like, oh, really?
Yeah.
You don't think $100 into an IUL is a good idea? Not really. You're 35 years old. I think that you're going to get more value out of Roth IRA. But let's get you a term policy since you have a kid or a house or whatever it is, student loans. And you can have the living benefits, all of them, all 3.
So that's part of the issue in and of itself with all of this. And like, I'll tell you, I have a $750,000 term policy. It's a 30-year term because I was like, why not? Just in case. I'm paying $57 a month for it. So they're offering me $500,000 for $96. I already have $750,000 for $57.
Oh my God.
Like it's not even close. Like it's on, and here, and not to, because I know we're the cash value people. Like that's what our focus is more often than not. But the thing about the IULs that we sell too is that it's convertible. So if you are the person that cannot afford the premiums needed to create the cash accumulation growth, which is our focus, right? You can take this term policy, lock in your health rating while you're young, and turn it into a permanent policy later when you maybe do have a little bit more flexibility in your income.
I didn't even think about the fact that you have more coverage.
I already have more coverage for less.
You get a 35-year term for $97 a month. So at 53, you've dropped 41 grand into a black hole. You don't have insurance anymore, and it's going to be more expensive now.
Because what you tried to say something to him about, like, what happens after the term ends, you know, because you guys were talking about, like, oh, like, can I take money out of the investment?
I know. I was trying everything, guys.
What happens when the term ends? And he was like, oh, there's options after your term policy ends. But, like, we don't have to talk about it right now, basically. Like, are there options?
Could get another 35-year term?
Yeah, you can't.
Which by that point, at this rate, I'd be paying $500 a month for it.
You couldn't even get $500,000 for $500 a month.
Like, it would be absurd at that point. Where we're over here showing people paying, you know, maybe $500 a month now for 30 years. You don't have to pay for the rest of your life, and you get to keep the death benefit.
I mean, their whole thing is that you're not going to need insurance then. But it's like, okay, you're, you know, the 18-year-old who got the 35-year term, they're 65 and they develop a chronic illness. And now,
well, even
now
if,
what?
Well, yeah, I mean, but even in their term, they wouldn't have anything. But like,
exactly,
well, yeah,
like they would, even if they still had the term, they still wouldn't get help if they had a chronic illness because their term sucks.
Or they have to end up in a nursing home.
Ooh, Ooh, that's a good, I think, yeah. If you're in a nursing home, guess what the government can take?
Your investments.
Your investments. You know what the government cannot take if you go into a nursing home? Your life insurance policy.
Yeah, life insurance has certain protections from the government that any other account does not. If you ever heard of having to spend down your assets because you need government assistance, that's your brokerage account, that's your 401k, your IRA, your TSP, your 403b, but it is not your cash value of your life insurance policy. I mean, I set up a guy with a term policy literally yesterday. He got an IUL and a term because he doesn't want to be a burden on his family. He doesn't even have kids. He was like, I really like the idea of the living benefits. I want to just get $300,000 of term coverage for the next 30 years. And he drives Lyft, like a lot. So we were talking about the critical and the chronic illness riders and saying like that example we use often, that if you were to break both of your hands, you qualify to have money accelerated from your term policy that has all those living benefits to cover your medical bills. And he's sitting there like, I drive every day and anything could happen to me where I get in a car accident and I break both of my hands. Yeah. So now you don't have to worry about hospital bills piling up if something were to happen to you in the car. Like, and if he had gone to Primerica, he wouldn't have had any of that. They'd been like, are you on your deathbed? No? Okay, well, we're not going to be able to help you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Even if you don't want an IUL, if you're like, that's not for me, the term comparison alone, you still want a quality term policy.
What else I thought was funny that we didn't touch on when the investment side of what they're promising, you know, or showing you that you can expect with your return is that, you know, you're going to average a 9 to 12% return in all of the accounts, no matter what. They also mentioned like the wording was really weird here, but he said your money is going to be taxed inside the account. Mm-hmm. Like he wasn't talking about a specific account. He was just like saying, oh, if you take out the money, it's going to be taxed already. So then he's not talking about a Roth IRA, right? But like he wasn't mentioning which account. Like it was just very vague. And he also mentioned that a 401k wouldn't return 9 to 12%. I was just like, since when? But then he also said that the investment account is like a bank. So it was like, well, so it's not a 401k. It's not a Roth IRA. It's just a straight brokerage account. And it's like a bank. And the money is taxed inside? What magical account are we talking about?
Yeah, I think he was trying to convey that because the money I'm putting in is already post-tax money, that it's not like pre-tax money going in. So you've already paid taxes on this money, so you don't have to pay taxes when you're taking it out. But like,
your capital gains are going to be.
But you have capital gains, and guys, here's the thing: I was trying to play dumb, so I didn't bring up capital gains. But like, there is capital gains tax in investments, like because I feel like that would have given me away. But like, what about a capital gains tax? Like, tell me more.
Like, I thought you didn't know anything about the finance.
I don't know anything. No, but like, so
it's like they're betting on people to be earning so little money that they don't get taxed on capital gains, like that doesn't affect them, because I feel like I've seen people in lives talk about that. They're like, you don't have to pay capital gains tax.
Yeah, well, and he said like, that I could take the money out whenever I wanted to.
Yeah,
so
no
I'm
problem.
like, yeah, great. But now I'm also earning interest on a smaller amount, which takes away all the pretty numbers you just showed me.
Like to say that it functions like a bank account.
Like he was trying to basically sell it like it functioned like an IUL without it being an IUL.
Which does have more bank-like characteristics, as in you can just decide to put whatever amount of money. You don't always have to put money, and you can just go and take it out.
Yeah, I mean, and I would say that's actually a perk, that you don't have guidelines around whatever it is that they're using.
Unless we are talking about a Roth IRA, which a lot of these Primerica agents use as their main account, right?
And we all know there's an annual limit on that.
Yeah. And you can't just go and take your money out.
Yeah, and if you make over a certain amount, you have to stop putting money into it.
Yes, like the whole conversation was so uneducated. Oh, you guys are gonna love the end of the conversation here, because he says, "Do you have time tonight to come to a life-changing meeting?" Like it's a life-changing meeting. Like I don't know what I'm talking about, but if you start a business, like I started a business, like it'll change your life.
Change your life.
Yeah. I love going in for life insurance and getting asked to go to another recruiting meeting after I just sat through one with you.
It's crazy. There, you know, the chart on their website that shows you what you can sell with each of your licenses. You know, you get your certification and you know, you can sling solar or legal and identity protection, and you can get, you know, just a fee for each client that you bring. But then you get your first license and you can sell just Primerica life insurance. But you get another license and you get access to AIG and all, you know, all of these other things. And it's just, it's tiered, you know, how you can make money. But, you know, you go to the life-changing meeting, you can start making money from day one if you know somebody
Who also wants to change their life.
Yeah, exactly.
Didn't you say that there's marketing material that says like most people are not happy with their jobs and
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
bad.
and this was about a 35-minute meeting. I would say 20 to 25 minutes of that was recruiting focused. And then we
Yeah.
got into numbers. And I was having to ask him information for clarity. Like I had to ask him okay, what is this account earning, right? And that's when I got the 9 to 12%. I had to ask him about what happens when you take the money out. Can I even touch the money? He was like, just look at all the money you have. And that was like that was the pitch. Look at all this money. Look at all this money.
Showing off.
And I'm like, okay, but how is it working? You're not actually giving me any information at
Well, he
all.
wasn't even going to send you anything. Like
Oh,
the
yeah,
stuff
and then
that you got was because you were like, well, what can you send me? Like, or
Yeah,
else
so
he wasn't going to send much.
Yeah, I was like, I want to compare. I want to talk to other people. I'm not talking to other people, but I was like, I want to talk to other people. And he was like, well, why would you want to go talk to someone else? I used the numbers you gave me.
Relax, buddy.
And he even said, he's like, what would make you, or what would be your decision to go with a different
Yeah.
carrier? And I was like, if it costs less, because I
Yeah.
already knew I'm paying less for more.
Like you got to be so wrapped up in a company's culture that you think that what you have to offer that's double the amount like just doesn't matter. Like
What was the chart about the piggy bank?
Yeah, so he was just like the savings, the piggy bank. The blue dot that goes across, that's the term coverage. Then you have the bank, what the bank would do for you. And they were showing the bank, and this was something else. They were showing the bank doing like 0.05%, which I get is like the standard bank. My bank savings APY is 4.6%. Even that alone, I was like, okay, I'm already beating that with my own money. And then our program where he's showing what my money would do in the Primerica investment account, I would have $886,000 based off of a 9 to 12%. No market
Year over year?
downturn. Yep, no market downturn, and never touching that money.
which brings us to the actual return versus the average return.
Sequence
which,
of returns.
Yeah. And he said, he's like, these are not guaranteed, but I had to pull that out of him. He wasn't going to tell me these numbers were not guaranteed.
We get the opportunity to show 0% years, but the chances of having negative years are 4 times as likely with this, but we're showing 9% year over year.
So here's the thing, in a 20-year time frame, you can expect the market to go negative at least 5 times. And I straight up asked him, like, you know, if a 2008 happens, what happens to these numbers? And that's when he said, oh, well, we make sure that we tell you these are not guarantees.
I would love to see their guaranteed charts.
There's a Primerica guy who's on TikTok a lot, and he's come after Casey a lot. And he was like, you can't take out cash value in the loans in the second year. And Casey used a guaranteed column to say, yes, you can. Here's the guarantees, not the hypothetical indexing, the guarantees of a 2%. And that was still, no, that's lying. I don't know what to tell you.
Yep.
It's like, it's a guarantee. But you can show me 9 to 12% with no market downturn, and me asking about what happens in a market downturn, that's when you tell me these numbers are not guaranteed.
Yeah, and what if that market downturn is the year before you want to retire?
Yeah.
Yeah, just bad timing, you know?
It's not good.
Looks like you're working another year or two.
Yeah.
I mean, historically, you know, at least 2 to 4 years before the market comes back.
yeah.
Well, and in 2008 alone, that took people 6 years just to get their money back to where it was in 2007. He's like, in 2009, the market went back up. It did, but I don't get my money back in that scenario. It took 6 years.
So hopefully this podcast finds the right people that are researching Primerica or insurance policies, whether it's term policies, cash value life insurance policies, buy and term, investing the difference, whatever it is, so that you can trust your gut feeling. I hear a lot of people tell me, I just had a really bad gut feeling that the Primerica guy was not telling the whole truth. And then they started recruiting me. Listen to it. Listen to your gut. They are trying to recruit you. They don't have all the answers. We don't have all the answers either. I think the difference is we give you all the information that we could possibly have or know. And if we don't know something, we don't claim to know it. We do not try to push people into products that are not right for them. And we don't recruit. You've seen these same three people for years now, and our team is still really small. And you're not going to get the same experience when you work with an independent agency compared to working with a massive company like Primerica, because they have other motives. So I hope this podcast found the right people. And if it didn't, send this to your friends. Send it to your friends who tell you that they are talking with a Primerica agent. They have a Primerica policy. Please spread the word, because like we mentioned in the beginning, this epidemic of Primerica agents all over TikTok Live and on Instagram is wild. And there is a lot of misinformation going on out there. And we would like to try to do everything in our power to stop it. But the internet is a big place.
Also, just, for the sake of saying it, if you see someone who's on live literally 24/7 all day, every day, and that's all they're doing is going live and bashing everything and just going live, they don't have a life, they don't have time, and they're probably not very busy selling any products because they're not worth selling.
Yeah. So the moral of the story is you can get a better term policy somewhere else, and you can open a Roth IRA on your own. You don't need any special advisor to open a Roth IRA.
Way to sum it up, Ryan. That was beautiful.
This is actually the first episode of the season where we got to call out an ass, and that is the entirety of Primerica. So thank you, Primerica, for being the star of our show. Thanks so much for listening to the You're an Asset podcast. If you want to get in touch with us, reach out to us. Everything you need is below in the description. Thank you, McCall. Thank you, Ryan, for joining me today on the show. We'll see them again later. And for now, bye! The You're an Asset podcast is not giving financial advice. We are not licensed financial advisors, and our licensing is strictly in insurance products. The information that we talk about is specific to the products that we work with. We cannot guarantee that other agents will have the same product features that we discuss on the show.